Testing, testing, one, two, three. Testing. Hello. Am I live streaming again? Yeah. Okay. Can you see if you can hear me okay through YouTube? If I'm speaking, if the volume's okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'm speaking. I'm saying testing one, two, three. Testing one, two, three. Do I need to speak louder or is this okay? And if everything is okay, then I will continue from the beginning. Okay, brilliant, thanks. Okay, cool. Okay, so I'm gonna start again, yeah? And, alright, brilliant. Okay, okay, hello, guys. Sorry for that. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start again from scratch. So, file open, I don't want to save, and let's bring in the lower body. Convert scene. Okay. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is, oh, and I think I've something just snapped in my head to say why the rotation to zero wasn't working. So let's do this first. So I'm gonna select the rig. I'm gonna hold down abs, put abs effect on, and set the layer animation on. And then I'm gonna click here, rotation to zero. Is it working? Ah, it worked. Okay, so I think I had to do that before I put the layer. I had to put the layer on before I set rotation to zero. Maybe. Regardless, it's working now. So there you go. Alright, so now as a demonstration, if I move my leg like this and I don't like it, I can rotation to zero and it will snap back straight. Yep. So that's just a nice little thing to make sure you're on even plane. Not that it matters too much, but it's just good to have. Okay, so I'm gonna press N on the keyboard and then I'm gonna set my extreme poses again. So I'm gonna rotate the leg going forward and say this is my extreme or my stride. Um, right foot forward and the left foot is gonna go backwards. So I'm gonna just rotate it into place, something like this. Every run is different, so every run's gonna be slightly in different places, and it's good to have some uniqueness within your movement. So what I'm gonna do is, with my first leg, I'm gonna press K on the keyboard to lock it, or you can just press this plus with the key on, so K is the shortcut. I'm gonna do the same for my back foot, so that's my left foot is going back, and then I'm gonna press K on that. And now what I want to do is I'm going to move my central helper. So I'm going to press L on the keyboard to go to my left view. And I know that this is the rate where when it's in this position in the Z axis, the foot will hit the floor and be nice and centralized. But this is going to be our jump, so it's going to be the beginning and end of our loop, and so it's going to start the loop in mid-air. So I'm just going to raise it, say above halfway between these two guidelines, like that, and going to press K to lock that in, so locking in the movement, rotation, and scale, even though we ain't messing with that too much. I'm then gonna come back here on the first frame of both legs, and then I'm just gonna bring them up somewhat to be more um, pleasant. Whatever, I'm talking rubbish. Ignore me. Okay, so we've got our first movements or stages locked in. What I want to do is I'm gonna go to, oh yeah, so let me go back, sorry. I'm gonna go to time configuration. I'm only gonna use 24 frames for this loop, so I'm gonna leave it as NTSC. I'm gonna change the end frame to 24, so the animation end frame to 24, and press OK. Alternatively, you can use Control Alt and the left or right mouses to, so in this case it would be the left click um, to extend and shrink the frame. Yep, so I'm going to put it on 24. That's the shortcut if you want to know the shortcut, which you do know the shortcut because you guys used it before. Okay, so I'm going to go to frame 12, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this leg forward. I'm going to be careful not to bring it too far and rotate it so the ankle snaps. I want to keep everything like relative. So let me go to rotation, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to press L on my keyboard to go into my left view. No, it doesn't have to be this exactly the same. I'm just using it to match it up so it can be like an even run. Okay, I'm going to press K to lock it in, P to go back to perspective, and then we can see what's happening there with that leg moving from one area to the next. No, I'm going to try and use as fewer frames as possible on this animation, just to give you guys the oversight of how to lock basic movement in. Okay, so I'm going to select the right leg now, and then I am going to rotate that into a back position. I'm going to do something similar. I'm going to press L on the keyboard. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to frame 1, and then I'm going to use this. So between this grid area and this is where I'm going to place my foot, my right foot. No, I said it doesn't have to be exactly the same, but I'm just using this as like a guideline. Yeah, so we can see that is not as accurate. So let's go like this. Whoops, no, I want to rotate it somewhere like this and move it down like that. So when we move back, it's kind of in the same place. Yep, maybe down a tiny bit. And then I'm going to press K to lock. Okay, back to perspective. And we've got our first stride. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to go to frame 6. And what I want is for my first foot to be placed on the floor. So it's going to come down, land on the right foot, and then it's going to travel through and then come back up, while this left foot, it travels through and then does the same on the from 12 to 24 frames. Okay, so I'm going to go to frame 6, and then what I'm going to do is with my right foot selected, I'm going to use the Z axis and right click, sorry, the Z coordinates and right click so it goes down to 0. So I know it's locked in. I'm gonna right click the Y, not that it has to be, and then I'm gonna use Alt right click and rotation to 0. So that's rotated it flat back onto its original position. Now you can see that our character is off the floor, and that's because we moved the helper up for the jump loop. So we're going to rectify that now. So obviously I'm going to press K to lock in. Always lock in. Once you've settled on the frame, lock it in, unless you want rotation to travel through or something through many frames. Okay, so let's move on to the body helper. I'm going to marquee select. So I use this for selecting multiple frames, but I also do it on a single. It's just force of habit. And then I'm going to hold shift and I'm going to drag that frame over to frame 12. And then what I'm going to do is, so we've duplicated the first frame to frame 12, and what I'm going to do is on frame 6, I'm going to pull it down so that there's some bend, a tiny bit of bend in the leg, not too much. So if we go to our left view, we can see where our thing is coming down, where our body is coming down. Yeah, it's by a lot. Over the course of you animating, you're gonna tweak it, and so it's minute movements rather than big movements like this. But to understand this, to see clearly, it's better we do big gesture poses rather than little dainty ones that you'll only notice at the end. Okay, I'm not gonna bother lock this frame in. Because I might rotate it or something later on, and I might want the rotation to travel. So okay, so we've got this locked down. Now it's time. This leg looks a bit odd, so now we need to fix that the left leg, because the follow through is a bit too high. So on same frame 6, I'm gonna pull down. I'm gonna rotate it so that the foot is like somewhat trailing. And what I like to do is like to say I'm not in the left view, but I'm facing left of the camera of this. I like to keep like little gaps in here so there's no like overcrossing, hidden overcrossing like this. It's good to have a tiny bit of gaps and stuff to divide your lines. Not that it's anything mandatory. It's just something I do. Press K to lock that in, so we can see now how the foot is traveling through. Okay, so we've got our first run, which is not obviously it's not done yet, but we've just got the movements in. What I'm gonna do is I am going to copy the first frame, hold Shift, so marquee select, hold Shift, and drag it to 24. And what that's gonna do now is we've just duplicated that frame, so we want it to line up perfectly anyway. Yeah. And then on frame 18, what I'm gonna do is I'm also going to, so in movements, I'm gonna right click the Z axis, the Y axis, alt right click, rotation to 0, and lock that in there as well. Okay, and I'm gonna press K to lock it in. The same thing is gonna happen here. So I'm gonna copy this frame by holding Shift over, and then on 18 I'm gonna copy this frame that we did before, so it's landing. Yeah. Okay, so now we need to worry about the right leg. Yeah. So again, we want that leg to follow through all the way, so I'm gonna copy the first frame over to 24. So now we've got the run and it's going like that, and then at frame 18 I'm gonna pull down, rotate so it's back, so let's move it like this. And then on frame 6 I'm gonna use the guidelines here, so there's not much it's just close to that point. So on frame 18 I'm gonna rotate it back somewhat. It was something like that. Doesn't matter. Doesn't need to be pinpoint. So it's a bit up like that. Okay, and there's a gap here. Yep. Cool. All right. So and then lock in the movements. So we've got nice tight locked frames. So we've got our. So if I press play now, we've got our dodgy run, but this will give us the basis. So the timing is not bad. I don't mind the timing. As long as you get your timing in right first, we can always tweak and mess around with the positioning of the legs and the arms when you get to it, and the rotations and the hips and the secondary movements and the leg and the toe movements and all of this stuff to make it actually look nice. Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to mess about with getting contact points before and trailing between the initial slide. So what I'm gonna do is say at 2 frames before, I'm gonna rotate to 0. I'm going to right click so it's placed on the floor. And then 2 frames after, I'm gonna do the same thing. Rotation to 0. Okay, cool. So we've got, it's not quite hitting the floor, but we're gonna get there. And then we've got like a little lift off, and the toe is starting to curl just because of the way how the rig is set up. Yeah. So what I'm gonna do with this, I'm not gonna worry too much about the height. We'll sort that out after. I want to do the same thing to the opposite leg. So let's click here. That's the landing. So 2 frames earlier. Alright. Yeah, 2 frames earlier. Sorry. I'm going to move here, rotation to 0, and then after rotation to 0, and then knock that down. Now when we press play, we've got a bit more contact. We've got a bit more contact going on. Yep, okay. So the next thing I want to do is I'm gonna be working on this hip, and then what I want to do is I want it to rotate, so it's going in a tiny bit. Should I use snap? I think snap is a bit too aggressive here. 5 is, yeah, it can be a heavy one. Well, it doesn't matter. So it's coming down, and then let's rotate this one 5 as well. So that's, I've got my snap on to 5. So obviously the rotation snap can be changed by right clicking. You got the angle here, so you can change and set whatever angle you want as long as you keep the numbers rounded out, so you know what's happening. So now when we play, we've got like a little waddle going on. Yeah, it's a bit aggressive. And my animation, this screen is getting a bit framey. I don't know why. Not actually running anything else. But for right now, that's not too bad. Yeah, it's like straightforward, nice and simple. It's not too bad. The key with animation though is just tweaking. If you don't like it, you keep tweaking until you see something you do like. Yeah, so if we go on motion paths, we can see the motion that this leg is taking on. Yeah, and if you wanted, all of these can be smoothed out and whatnot. Actually, I think I can we manipulate these on the spot? Actually, I won't anyway. And the same here with the opposite leg. It's more or less exactly the same. Yeah. And these can be tweaked and modified, especially using the the curve editor, the graphs and stuff. Whoops. Which I won't get into and mess around right now because I want to keep this simple. And as we get on and move on to other tutorials, you'll realize it's simple, but then the learning curve to get something really nice becomes really steep. Okay, so just say we've done this, you're happy. What I'm gonna do now is actually just mess around with the toe. Do I want to mess around with this one or this one? Doesn't matter. Anyway, so what I'm gonna do is say around frame 0, sorry. I'm gonna bring this up by 15. I'm gonna press K to lock in. So I'm sticking with the snaps. Then it's gonna come down here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do I need to copy this frame to 2? No, let's right click delete selected frame. Let's just put this on, actually, yeah. Hold on, so let's keep that up, and then we're gonna go down by 15 again to snap it. I'm gonna press K, so it looks like it's coming down. It's gonna give it some snap, and then at this point 8, I'm gonna just duplicate that, and then let's say at frame 12, just put it back to see like there's like some curve going on here, and then you can follow all the way through to 21. Just press K, and then frame 0 we can, no, if that's straight, let's put that back up. Ooh, I've lost what I'm doing now. What am I doing? So if we Press play. Yeah, so okay, it works. It's floppy, so it's coming over. It's gonna hold at that point and then snap up between those two frames, so it makes it look quite snappy. Obviously, you don't have to do this. You can do it however you want. I'm just giving you options to tweak and make it look a bit more slap, because our character doesn't actually hit the floor on, where is it, on this frame, even though I've got it on the floor. Just having the toe come down, snap into the floor, gives it the added extra bit of information. Also, you can get more in depth if you wanted like a bit more kickoff between here and here. I can also move it so there's a bit more stretch, so you've got the line is looking a bit smoother. Let's actually put a bit more rotation in there and pull back. Yeah. If I press play again, and now we're gonna have you're gonna see some jolting in the knee, which happens with every run. Unless you want your run smooth, you should like lower the amount or the height differentiation of your character bobbing up and down. Yeah, so that doesn't look too bad. Okay, and I'm gonna repeat the same thing for the opposite foot. So I'm gonna rotate it. I'm not even gonna count these frames now. I'm just gonna do it how I see visually. Okay, lock that in. Let's not duplicate to the end frame because we want to see how everything is working here. So what's that point? So that point is on the frame 12, so say frame 9. Let's press K to lock in, and frame 12, let's go up. Yep, K to lock that. This is the bit that I wanted to hit the floor. So let's put that back straight, or as much straight as we can, just like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate that again, just so we've got a better snap. And then I'm going to duplicate the first frame so that it travels through. So that's snapping to the floor. 21, going to duplicate to 21 or something like that. So it's got a curve, and now we press play. Okay, yeah, I think that works. Yeah. Okay, so this is a simple run with some added extra bits on here. Obviously we could do more with the knees actually, so what I was showing in the tutorial as well. So when we come to stuff like this, what I also like to do is I'm gonna rotate in a bit, because no one actually runs super straight. Regardless of how good you think you run, you never run super straight. And then because I've modified this frame, I'm gonna copy it to the last frame, and you can see as I move it, actually you can see as I move it along, it's doing stuff to the timeline. Yeah, so let me lock that in so that it can be exactly the same start and end. And then at frame 12, I'm gonna push it out. Actually, so I'm gonna right click local, so the axis is on the local position, and then I'm gonna rotate it out a bit. And it's just tiny tweaks like this, which will add a lot. Yeah, so you can see it's tucked in, pointing diagonal in, and as it comes, it's tucking out just a tiny bit. Yeah, and it will all correct itself because all of these are locked. The main ones are locked, but I mean we're not messing with scale anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And I'm gonna do the same for the opposite foot. So this one is out a bit, And you can see as I rotate this, it rotates the knee as well. Maybe that's a bit too much. There you go. And hold shift, marquee select, grab it through, and then on frame 12, this is going to be the tuck in. Yep. So it gives you like a little point out and stuff like that. Okay, and I think that's going to be it for this tutorial. Yeah. Yeah, so that's a nice decent run cycle, and it's enough information for you to wrap your head around. It's simple enough. I've not used too many frames. You can see it's enough for me to modify, make tweaks, and then when you move on to the, actually I didn't do the same thing for the back foot, did I, as I did on that. So if we come over here, I can just stretch this bit out to get, whoops, sorry, N, make sure I'm on animation mode. Just stretch this bit out a tiny bit and move it in, just so that the pull off stretch, there's a nice stretch in the leg before it curves back up. Yep. Okay, so actually, so let me run through let me run through, there should be stretch there, that's fine, yeah. Let me run through the turning this into a GIF, just so I can show you guys straightforward. So I'm gonna go on to the render options. I'm gonna make sure that I'm in Arnold render or not. I mean, it don't really matter. 640, 480, that's the dimensions I'm using, like a nice square. Active time segment, I'm gonna press OK. Actually, let's keep it on single for now. What I'm gonna do is press Shift and F. This just puts our framing on, yeah, because we're in square, 4x3 mode. I'm gonna hold Control and Alt, middle mouse button to zoom in, just so that the framing is right. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press 8 on the keyboard, and that will bring up our environments effect. If you don't want to press 8 or something has changed, you can always go to rendering, environments, same thing. Background color I'm going to change to off-white, so not super white, just like close. Go OK, and then what am I going to do? Let me test the render, what the render looks like. Okay, so to me that's fine, don't need anything else really. Let's play it one more time. Everything's in frame. Okay, and then I'm gonna go to render setup, active time segment. I'm gonna go down to render output file, and then I'm gonna go to this PC 3D objects. This is just where I'm throwing everything. You can save it wherever you like. I'm gonna call this run sequence, SEQ, and we're gonna just call this run 1, and I'm gonna save it as let's save it as a PNG, so we can, you know, put different backgrounds if we feel like it in the future. Yeah. I'm gonna press save. Okay, don't need to worry about that. And then I'm going to render it out. So because we don't actually or technically have a background, PNG will save it as a alpha channel. Therefore, you can put it on any other background or mix it in other animation that you like. But when you do render it out as a GIF, because GIFs also have alpha channel, you need to make sure that your background is like a solid white or something, or any color, it doesn't really matter. Just don't have it with the transparency, because it doesn't do the interlacing of the pixels too good, or there isn't, there shouldn't be. Okay, this is nearly done. Okay, What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna load up animate. So the animate 2020 or 2018, 2020 and 2021 are different. They've got different options and it's been modified, so things work exactly the same. It's just that the interface is slightly upgraded in the newer versions. For real. Okay. And continue company. Nope. Let's get on here. Okay. So give us a second. Okay, so let me just go like this. So I've just selected the full canvas, whatever. We're gonna modify the frame. We're gonna, was it 640, 480, it was. Spacebar will recenter your stuff, and if you need to zoom in and out, you hold control, middle mouse scroll, and it will zoom in and out. It's a bit more easier than, yeah, pressing all of that stuff. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to import. So I want to import my thing to stage, so you can import to library. I'm going to import it directly to the page though, and then it's going to ask where I saved it. 3D objects, run sequence. I'm only going to select the first one, and we're going to go open. It's going to say the file appears to be part of a sequence of images. Do you want to import all of the images in this sequence? Yes. And it should center. It's not fully centered here, so I'm going to change mine to be centered. You need to be careful on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the edit multiple frames. I'm going to go to all frames. Did I, all frames? Okay. I'm gonna press this button, free transform, shortcut Q. I'm gonna then highlight everything just to make sure I have it. And now, because we saved it in the PNG, you can see the alpha. You can see all of the legs, all of the keyframes of what is happening. Yeah, all of the frames that it rendered out. Okay, so I'm just gonna, I can select and move all of them, and you can see they snapped. So I'm just gonna snap them to this. Come on. There we go. Alright, perfectly centered. I'm going to make sure to untick edit multiple frames. Now we can play the first time. We'll load it in. Whoops. Need to drag out the loop just so we can see it. Okay, this computer is acting up a bit slow, but that's fine. And because the last frame and the first frame are more or less identical, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click. Let's not select anything. I'm going to right click here and go remove frames. So I'm just going to remove the last frame, and what that will do is from the first frame on this loop, it will jump to the first one because the first and the last are exactly the same. So this will just jump around, and it should make it a lot smoother. I'm on the crappy college computers in it, that's why there's this slowdown. Can't even play, and I got Max running in the background, so, and OBS, so maybe there's, yeah, it's gonna cause an issue. Okay, so I'm perfectly fine that this is gonna come out fine. So I'm gonna go to file, export. You can see there's lag, there's actually lag with me selecting animated GIF. So file, export, animated GIF, and we're gonna wait. it's not responding. Okay, here we go. Okay, so it's got transparency on. I'm gonna untick transparency so that it just puts a white background, or you can choose a background by changing the stage color in the main area. I'm gonna leave it as white. I'm gonna leave it to loop forever. I'm gonna leave the size, it doesn't need to be smaller. I don't really care too much. You shouldn't make yours too small for the file size if you want to use this in the future to implement or put into other things. Yeah, it's better you have it large, and then you can shrink him down later. And then I'm gonna press save. 3D objects again. Let me just put in here run tot. Gonna press save, and that should more or less do it. So let's go into the folder. Let's go 3D objects, run tot. Yep, and there you go. The animated GIF and the contact points, even though it was a bit floaty, they do actually look like they stick. Yeah. Okay, so that is gonna be it for the tutorial. So let's post that up in here. Bam. And I'm gonna call that it. I will do the other tutorial. Let's see. I will do the other tutorial for the